Okay, so here we go with the play Oedipus the King by Sophocles. Now, the backstory I think is worth having a look at, which is the second paragraph down the bottom there. Now, Oedipus, a stranger to thieves, became king of the city after the murder of King Laius, about 15 or 16 years before the start of the play. He was offered the throne because he was successful in saving the city from the Sphinx. This you should know, an event referred to repeatedly in the text of the play. He married Laius' widow, Jocasta, and had 4 children with her, 2 sons, Eteocles and Polynices, and 2 daughters, Antigone and Ismene. So, let's begin. I will stop at parts that are important and hopefully shed a bit of light on what we see there. So the action takes place in Thebes in front of the royal palace. The main doors are directly facing the audience. There are altars beside the doors, and a crowd of citizens are carrying branches decorated with laurel garlands and wool, and led by the priest. They're gathered in front of the altars, with some people sitting on the altar steps. Oedipus comes out of the palace doors. My children, latest generation born from Cadmus. Cadmus was the mythical founder of Thebes. So everyone in Thebes is thus, mythically anyway, born from Cadmus. But what Oedipus is doing in his very first line is reminding them all of their shared heritage. So he's a good king. Why are you sitting here with reed sticks in supplication to me while the city fills with incense, chants, and cries of pain? Now, they're there with the reed sticks in supplication, which means they're begging for help. Begging for help from their king, and he says why? Because the city is filled with incense, chants, and cries of pain. A terrible pestilence, a plague has struck the city of Thebes. People are dying in the streets. They can't be buried because everyone's busy dying. Babies are dying in the womb, and the crops have failed as well. And so what's happening in the city is people are burning incense, A, to mask the smell of the rotting bodies, but also B, to try to get the gods' attention. Because if you ever smell incense being burned, it is a very nice, sweet smell. And as it wafts towards the heavens, the hope is the gods will notice. People are chanting prayers to the gods to help them, and people are in cries of pain because they are dying, as are their friends and relatives. Children. Oedipus calls them children a second time. So he's already taking that sort of good king, fatherly figure role quite seriously. We can see from him saying children twice is that he is a king who cares for his people. It would not be appropriate for me to learn of this from any other source. So I have come in person. I, Oedipus, whose fame all men acknowledge. So another reason why he's a good king, he hasn't just sent a messenger to find out why everyone's outside the palace doors. He's come himself to hear in person. And his fame is all men acknowledge. Everyone knows of Oedipus because he solved the riddle of the Sphinx. But you there, old man, tell me, you seem to be the one who ought to speak from those assembled here. What feeling brings you to me? Fear or desire? You can be confident that I will help. See what a good king he is? I should assist you willingly in every way. I would be a hard-hearted man indeed if I did not pity suppliants like these. So right from the off, Oedipus is a man who cares for his people and he wants to help. And so the priest speaks. Oedipus, ruler of my native land, you see how our people here of every age are crouching down around your altars. Some Phrygians, barely strong enough to fly, little children, and others bent by age, with priests as well, for I'm a priest of Zeus. And these ones here, the pick of all our youth. So the crowd represents everyone of every age in Thebes. And these ones, the other groups sit in the marketplace with suppliant sticks, or else in front of palaces 2 shrines. Pallas Athene, so the Athene or Athena, one of the Greek gods, people are praying to her for help as well. Or where Ismenus prophesies with fire. For our city, as you yourself can see, is badly shaken. She cannot raise her head above the depths of so much surging death. Disease infects fruit blossoms in our land. Disease infects our herds of grazing cattle, makes women in labour lose their children, and deadly pestilence, that fiery god, swoops down to blast the city, emptying the house of Cadmus and fills black Hades with groans and howls. So this is what is happening in the city. The crops aren't growing, the cattle are dying, the babies are dying in the womb, and everyone is dying from this pestilence. And they fill black Hades These children and myself now sit here by your home, not because we think you're equal to the gods. No, we judge you the first of men in what happens in this life and in the interactions with the gods. So there's massive respect for Oedipus. They don't come to him as begging help from a god. They come to him because he is an intelligent man. He's the first of men because he solved the riddle of the Sphinx and has ruled fairly and justly for the last 15 or 16 years. For you came here to our Cadmean city, Cadmus, the mythical founder, and freed us from the tribute we were paying to that cruel singer, the Sphinx. And yet you knew no more than we did and had not been taught in their stories. The people testify how with God's help you gave us back our lives. So now, Oedipus, our king, most powerful in all men's eyes, we're here as suppliants, all begging you to find some help for us, either by listening to a heavenly voice or learning from some other human being. So the point here is that Oedipus, you've saved the city before, you need to save us again. From my view, men of experience provide advice when gives the best results. So now you, best of men, no pressure, raise up our state. Act to consolidate your fame, because you're famous. So you're not going to be famous if you don't solve this problem now. You need to back up what you did. For now, thanks to your eagerness in early days, the city celebrates you as its savior. Don't let our memory of your ruling here declare that we were first set right again and later fell. Don't save us to then let us fall. No, restore our city so it stands secure. In those times past, you brought us joy, with good omens too. Be that same man today. There's heaps of pressure on Oedipus. If you're to rule as you are doing now, it's better to be king in the land of men than in a desert. Well, that's true. You can't be king of anything if everyone's dead. An empty ship or city wall is nothing if no men share your life together here. So, the key point is that the people of the town have come to ask their king Oedipus for help. They expect that he will be able to solve this problem because he has solved the problem of the Sphinx. So his past successes mean that he needs to back it up. Oedipus said, my poor children, again, my children, I know why you have come. I am not ignorant of what you yearn for I well know that you are ill, and yet, sick as you are, there is not one of you whose illness equals mine. Your agony comes to each one of you as his alone, a special pain for him and no one else. The soul inside me sorrows for myself and for the city and for you all together. So Oedipus makes the point that as king, he is bearing the sufferings of all of them, rather than just individual. You are not rousing me from a deep sleep. You must know I've been shedding many tears and in my wandering thoughts exploring many pathways. After a careful search, I followed up the one thing I could find and acted on it. Oh, this is good. So he hasn't been sort of sleeping through this. Oedipus has been identifying ways that he could solve the problem of the plague, and he's decided on the best course of approach. After careful search, I followed up on the one thing I could find and acted on it. So I've sent away my brother-in-law, son of Menosius, Creon, to Pythian Apollo's shrine to learn from him what I might do or say to save our city. So Oedipus has already decided he's going to send his brother-in-law by the name of Creon to the Pythian Apollo shrine, which is the oracle at Delphi to Apollo. Pythian, because legend has it that when Apollo was found in the shrine at Delphi, the area was protected by a huge snake, hence a python, and Apollo slew it. But when I count the days, the time he's been away, I now worry what he's doing, for he's been gone too long, well past the time he should have taken. But when he comes, I'll be a wicked man if I do not act on all that God reveals. So Oedipus has already sent Creon to Delphi, and he's actually wondering why he's not back yet. What you've said is most appropriate, for these men have just informed me that Creon is approaching. Timely. Creon's on his way back. Lord Apollo, as he returns, may find shining fortune, bright as his countenance attend on him. It seems the news you bring is good. If not, he would not wear that wreath around his head, a laurel thickly packed with berries. Well, no, soon enough, he's within earshot. So, Creon's back, and it looks like he's got good news. Creon enters. Oedipus continues. My royal kinsman, child of Menosius, what message from the god do you bring us? Creon says, good news. I tell you, even troubles difficult to bear will all end happily if events lead to the right confusion. So, Creon has brought back good news from the oracle at Delphi. What is the oracle? So far, your words inspire me no confidence or fear. Hurry up, just say what you're going to say. If you wish to hear the news in public, I'm prepared to speak, or we can step inside. Now, this is the first hint that the news might not be good for Oedipus. If it was really good news, then Creon would just say it in public straight away. But he says, we could step inside. There's a bit of reluctance there. He's not sure. So Sophocles, the writer of the play, is just hinting to us that perhaps the news isn't good for Oedipus. Speak up, everyone. The grief I feel for these citizens is even greater than any pain I feel for my own life. Okay. So we've got a good king. He's quite happy to speak out, even if it is bad news for him. The letter report for her from the god. Lord Phoebus, that's Apollo, Phoebus light, clearly orders us to drive away the polluting stain this land has harbored, which will not be healed if we keep nursing it. Okay, so what this means is that the city is harboring, is sheltering a pollution. What the ancients believed was that if you committed an unholy murder, for example, you murdered a family member, particularly a parent or a sibling, then you are polluted until you have sacrificed to the gods and made good what you have done. And the problem is for family members, if they shelter a murderer, then they are polluted too, and the house is polluted and the town is polluted. So what's happening here is that essentially Thebes is sheltering a murderer who has not paid for his crimes, and thus the city is cursed by the gods. What sort of cleansing? And this is asked how it happened. By banishment, or atone for murder by shedding blood again. So it's definitely murder, and the only way that we can make it good is either banish the murderer or shed the murderer's blood. Blood for blood, or banishment. This blood brings on the storm which blasts our state. Right. So it's the blood that was spilled by the murderer that is brought on the storm which is blasting Thebes. And the one whose fate the god revealed, what sort of man is he? Before you came, my lord, to steer our ship of state, Laius ruled this land. I've heard that, but I never saw the man. Laius was killed, and now the god is clear. Those murderers, he tells us, must be punished, whoever they may be. Okay, so it's the murder of the previous king, Laius. That's the problem. And here Creonus says murderers, plural. They may be. So already the conversation is about there's more than one murderer. So Oedipus could not possibly imagine that he's the murderer, because he was only one person when he murdered the person on the road on the way to Thebes. So this is we're talking about a gang of murderers here. So Oedipus can't possibly consider that he's the murderer. Of course, the audience and us know that he actually is the murderer. And where are they? In what country? We're going to find a trace of this ancient crime. It'll be hard to track. Here in Thebes, so said the god. What is sought is found, but was overlooked escapes. There's no need to look elsewhere. The answer is in Thebes. The murderer is in the city. When Laius fell in bloody death, where was he? At home or in his fields or another land? A good king. Straight away, Oedipus is asking questions like a detective trying to find out what happened. He will pursue the truth and he'll find out what happened. He's collecting information to identify the murderer. He was abroad on his way to Delphi. That's what he told us. He began a trip but did not return. Okay, so Laius went away and didn't come back. Was there no messenger, no companion who made the journey with him and witnessed what took place? A person who would provide some knowledge men could use? He's a detective. He's a good king. He's trying to sort this out. They all died, except for one who was afraid and ran away. There's only one thing he could inform us with any confidence about the things he saw. What was that? We might get somewhere if we had one fact. We could find many things if we possess some slender hope to get us going. Oedipus is determined to find out what's happening, and he's asking good, intelligent questions. So apparently one man escaped the supposed gang of murderers, so he might have the answer to what Oedipus and the people seeks. And we'll just about finish here. Creon says, he told us it was robbers who attacked them, not just a single man, a gang of them. They came on with force and killed him. So again, the story is that Laius was killed by a group of murderers, a gang, not just one single person. Okay, ka kite.